Good morning. I look over at the sea of faces and I wonder, is this anticipation or is this just get finished? So this morning I bring a word and the word I got was, the title was The Winds of Change and then an unwavering anchor. And I just want to start by reading out of Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 to 8. There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for change. And I suppose the fact it's biblical, change is going to happen. So we can't expect that yesterday, today, and tomorrow is going to be the same. Circumstances change, we change, situations change. So it's so true that life is a journey filled with seasons. And often we find ourselves with these winds of change. So the other truth is change is inevitable. It's a force that sweeps through our lives, bringing new opportunities, challenges, and uncharted territories. Change isn't always bad. Change is quite often good. We see it as bad because it's not the usual. It's not what we're used to. It's different. And humans are creatures of habit. Humans are quite predictable because they like the same thing over and over and over again. I just think of us going to a restaurant and I try so hard to order something different, but it's always a cheeseburger and Sprite. But change brings new territory, brings new opportunities, brings growth. So maybe if I did choose something out of on the menu, I would be quite surprised. Change is woven into the very fabric of our existence. And how we navigate these winds of change defines our journey. So if we embrace the change, it makes the journey positive and doable. But if we fight and kick against the change, it makes this inevitable journey difficult and hard to bear. In this season of change, I found that there's a couple of things that help. We need to firstly acknowledge the presence of change. So just like the wind comes up and whispers through the trees, change is subtle. You know what? It's not the wind just comes and it's gale force and all of that. It starts slowly, softly. By acknowledging this presence of change allows us to be mindful and prepared. But so often what we do is we sit and we fight against this change. So when we're in the thick of things, we don't know what to do. Why? Because right in the beginning we were fighting against it, or we were leaning back on the old. And now that we should have been prepared for the depth of it, we're now only starting to find our feet. Proverbs 3 verse 6 encourages us In all ways, submit to Him, and He will make the path straight. This change is biblical. This change has got to happen because you can't stay where you are. You need growth. And if we submit to Him, who's Jesus Christ, He will make the path straight. We need to trust in God as we acknowledge these winds of change. We need to seek His guidance and trust Him when these winds come as to what is happening, God, and how am I going to navigate this whole situation. In this season, we need to adapt to the shifting breeze. It's so true in nature that trees that bend with the wind are less likely to break. So the tree that stands up and fights against this wind, the wind's going to take it, and the wind's going to break it. I just think of, I think it was last year, that one Sunday night, the winds were crazy, and I went out to the high school the Monday morning, and the trees were lying down. Not all of the trees, but the trees that refused to bend or that weren't anchored into something substantial. Very similarly, when we face change, flexibility is key. To go with it, to hear what God's saying to you and move with it, rather than keeping our own ways, our own head's thoughts. Hear what God's saying and be flexible to what He's doing in your life. Romans 12 verse 2 says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Embrace the transformation that change brings. Thirdly, we need to see this change as a gateway to growth. Just as the wind carries seeds to new places, change can carry you to new places, to a place of growth. So we need to embrace the opportunities for personal and spiritual development that change brings. We need to take this change and grasp it and use this change for your growth, personal growth, spiritual growth, and growth in all ways. It's pointless staying in the old because the old, it's gone. It's the new. It's where we're going today. James 1 verse 2 to 3. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. I think the fourth point in this season is trust in God's sovereignty. In the winds of change, trust that God's in control. And I suppose that's a bit dodgy to say because the world could also bring winds of change. And that's where we need to discern this change and have our ear close to God and close to what He's saying are the plans for our lives and grasp this change. And often that change is difficult, but understand that God's in control. Proverbs 16 verse 9, in their hearts, humans plan their course, but God establishes their steps. Surrender your plans to His sovereign hand and trust in Him for guidance. The first point I've got that in this season what helps is And this is one of the crux of the matter, is finding strength in that unchanging anchor. Go back to that Monday morning when the trees had fallen down and all of that. The trees that had fallen down were, yes, they didn't bend to change, but they also didn't have a good root system. The younger trees that had good root systems and that their roots had anchored them in the soil stood firm. So in Hebrews it says, we have this hope as an anchor for our soul, firm and secure. And that anchor is Jesus Christ. He's the one that can ground us and guide us. So when I think of an anchor, I think we all think of a ship. And why does a ship have an anchor? So at sea, just like in our lives, we encounter storms, challenges, uncertainties, and hardships that threaten to toss us around. So that's the reason for this anchor. So when the storm comes, the boat comes in from the stormy seas, docks itself, and throws the anchor down, so that the storm can't take it away. It's not, the anchor doesn't take the storm away. The anchor grounds that ship, so the ship doesn't drift off. And I suppose that's quite relevant to me, because when the storms of life come, and they come on a regular basis, if we aren't anchored in something, it's easy for us to drift away. It's during these times that the anchor in our lives become profoundly relevant. This ship, it's got to carry this anchor around all the time. It's heavy, it's big, it's bulky. And when they're cruising in the sunshine and all of that, no one's worried about the anchor, because then it's all good and happy and all of that kind of thing. But it becomes quite relevant in the difficult times, in the stormy times, when the ship needs a safe place to harbor. The anchor is a symbol of stability, security, and steadfastness. It is an unyielding force that keeps the ship grounded when the waves, and I don't know why I put this word in, but it becomes a bit hectic. That's Jesus in our lives. When the waves of life become too hectic, when things aren't feeling stable or secure, when those winds of change come, He's there. He's the anchor that gives us the security, that gives us the stability, that holds us tight and comforts us. It just reminds me of the story in the Bible when Jesus was lying fast asleep on the boat, and everybody's freaking out there, and they come and they're a little bit irritated with Jesus and saying, but you sleeping, we almost dying. And he gets up and he says, just be quiet, to the storm. And the storm is still. Wouldn't it be so nice to have that influence in our lives? When those storms come, where we can call on Jesus and he just says, just be quiet, to the storms in our lives. And that's the invitation that we have. He loves us so much that He's there to do that for us. I just want to move on to the truth quickly. And it's so true that stand for something or fall for anything. If you don't know what to stand for, you could be taken away in any direction. Why? Because you're naive. So we look at a child and And when you give them the sweet, they don't know who you are, but they take the sweet. Because of innocence. Because they're naive. They don't know what the intentions of the sweet giver is. Life's like that. People come and they want to give you a word or they want to give you advice. You don't know what the intention are. What is the reason for them doing that for you? But if you've rooted and if you've had this anchor in your life and you're rooted in the Word and you understand this relationship that you have with Jesus and that relationship is solid, like a tree that's roots are planted deep, you're not going to be swayed. You'll be able to discern the intention and say, thanks, but that's not for me. I don't want that sweet because it's laced with things that aren't good for me, that don't form part of the journey that I'm traveling. So the world also has anchors, material possessions. Some people out there, if they've got this car or this house, or this bank balance, they're fine. But I think if COVID taught us one thing, is they can all be taken away. Just like that. It's sad to think how many businesses crumbled in COVID, in that lockdown period. How many people lost their jobs in that period. But yet Jesus Christ was there, carrying us through that period, never leaving us. Our social statuses. Because I'm a doctor now, you've got to give me respect, or I don't know what. I'm the manager. I'm the supervisor. What is that? It's just words. At the end of the day, if you're the cleaner or the CEO, you're human. You walk on two legs, you breathe the same air. That social status means nothing. Personal achievements. I was able to run the 100 meters in, 10 seconds. I don't know what the time is. But tomorrow someone's going to run it in 8, and then what you're going to do? Today you were promoted to a manager. Next week one of your workers are CEO. Then what you're going to do? Or there's retrenchments comes and you are demoted. What then? Relationships. It's interesting, especially when I look at younger people and they go into these relationships, because this guy or this girl is their everything. Until things don't go the way that one of the parties wanted to go. Your whole world crumbles. And I'm not making light of the fact, it is the truth. But it also tells us that we can't find stability in other people because man is infallible. And they could let you down. I'm not saying they will. Many times they do. But they could let you down. They're also just human. So they might forget to do something they promised, or they might run late, or maybe they just don't listen. Maybe they're tired of you. Self-image and appearance. We all get old. So that pretty face and that skinny body and the abilities to do that, it's great for now, but it's not necessarily going to last. The other thing that the world looks at is this temporal pleasures, that instant gratification. Oh, I was so irritated yesterday because I went to McDonald's to get food because we just didn't have time and it's load shedding and la la la, the whole story. And it took so long. Yeah. And my patience was now I'm the most patient person in this world. And I'm laughing now because it is instant gratification and we all suffer from it. In the end, I stood in front of that counter because people that had ordered after me had got their food and gone. So I thought, you're not taking another order until I get my food today. But it's arrogance because I feel that I should be instantly gratified. But it's only a temporary pleasure because when it doesn't work, the high that we get from whatever, from the bungee jump or the shark cage diving or whatever the situation is, it doesn't last forever. It's here today, it's gone tomorrow. I think of sometimes we look so forward and it's good to have things to look forward to. So we look forward to a holiday or I don't know what, a big party or whatever the situation is. But what about the day after, when it's the cleanup or the recoup? What then? So you can see that the anchors that the world has aren't enough to give us that stability that we so desperately need in these times of change. But I want to talk about our God. In Hebrews 3 verse 8, Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He doesn't change. He has a plan and a purpose. Come what may, He will move with the wind, but we're going to get to where we are. If He says it is, it is. He's not a liar. His mood doesn't change from day to day. He's the same yesterday, today, forever. Psalm 62 verse 67. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my refuge. I will not be shaken. Why? Because my salvation and my glory rests on God, the rock of my strength. My refuge is in God. Isn't it amazing to be able to say, it doesn't matter what happens, God is for me. And if God is for me, who can be against me? Isaiah 41 verse 10 says, do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will also help you. I will also uphold you with my righteous right hand. You don't need to worry when these winds come. Because if our anchors in God is there, it's like a little boat. The waves are going crazy. And he's just bopping up and down on these waves. Why? Because he's going nowhere. Because his anchor is firmly in the ground. He's safely in the harbor. That's what it's like to be in God's arms. God's anchors of faith and stability. We need to trust in this higher power that's God. We need to start seeking a relationship with God. And we need to align our lives with spiritual principles. The boat doesn't just get the anchor when it's in danger or when it's in need. The anchor is always on the boat. It's always taking up space. It's always weighing the boat down. So we can't, when God is our anchor, and live this life that we want to live. It reminds me of a skit we do with Book of Hope, where this child wants to, that Jesus comes to visit, And this child is first chatting on the phone, and Jesus wants to know, no, just sit. And then this child's going to a party, and the child gives Jesus the Bible and says, yeah, read this book, man. It's about your life, and you'll enjoy it. I see you just now. And Jesus wants to go with, and wants to be there, because that's what relationship's about. Wherever you go, I'll go. In the end, this child will be shown as putting Jesus back on the cross, saying, it's my life, and I'll live it like I want. And that mentality we've got to lose. We need to align our lives with the life of Jesus Christ. We need to understand the purpose and the calling that we have. And that's one of the anchors that God has, is that we know who we are. We know where we're going. We know what we know. Discovering and living in alignment with that purpose and plan that God has for your life. Moving from personal ambition to align with a greater purpose. Another one of God's anchors is unconditional love and grace. So we need to start experiencing and extending this unconditional love. That love that God so loved each and every one of us that He gave up His Son so that we can live with Him in eternity. That love that no matter what we do wrong, He's always there. He's not going to necessarily take away the consequences, but He's always there. He always loves. And understand grace and forgiveness. And I think that's one of the biggest things that tries to take that anchor away from us is the devil comes and, how are you 10 years ago? And but you did that and that and that. We need to understand that we're forgiven. We knew. But that we can't continue down the roads that we traveled then. So when you look at me now and you look at me 30 years ago, very, very different people. I've said it so many times, but when the kids went to Al Shaddai, I met this girl that was at college with me, and she said, how did your kids get into Al Shaddai? But I'm changed through the grace of Jesus Christ. Another one of God's anchors of community and service. Being part of a spiritual community. Knowing that there are people out there that care for you, that are there for you. Be it when you've got a question, be it when you're in deep waters. This is the family that's backing you. Often this is the family that's in your corner, fighting for you. Like build relationship with this family. We can't expect people to be there only in the bad times. We need to use the good times to build, to grow in this relationship, to cement that relationship. And it is, we've been through a couple of things, and I know I speak a lot about it, but it was a pivotal time in my life. We had this accident. And we're sitting in the hospital, and the next thing is possible. In the difficult times, the family is there for us. Engaging in acts of service gives us purpose, makes us feel worth, grounds us, and gives us that stability. That when things are not going according to plan, it keeps us grounded. And then prayer and reflection. Speaking to God regularly. It's pointless having a relationship and not talking. We need to talk, we need to communicate, we need to share. That's what builds relationships. God is exactly the same. He wants us to talk to Him. And it's not, I was chatting to someone the other day, and I was saying, growing up, it was Our Father and a Hail Mary, and that's not talking to God. Talking to God is real. It's saying, hi God, with respect, and saying, these are my situations. Thank you for this. This is working so well, and how can you become real and start building a real relationship? Because religion is not going to necessarily get you to where you need to be. Just sitting in this church because I have to, or just going to sell because I have to. It's a frustration and an irritation. Come with an expectation. Come with the attitude of giving and growing. Meditating on His Word. Not just reading through scriptures or whatever just because I've got to do it or I want to read through the Bible in a year. Read through the Bible in 6 years, in one lifetime. But let what you read be meaningful. Even if you spend a year on Matthew, that's right. We spent almost a year on Genesis for the kids. And we all laugh at the back. But the impact that it has on those kids' lives. I just look at my years of children's church and I see the impact that the stuff has had on children's lives. It's worth it. Don't worry about finishing it in a month or a day or a year. Worry about the impact it's going to have on your life. Reflective practices. It's not what you say that people see. It's what you do. So don't just talk the talk. Walk the walk. And start fostering a connection with God. Start building that relationship, because that will be the anchor that grounds you in the storm. I came across this piece that was Martin Luther obviously gave in one of his speeches, and it says, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in his moments of comfort, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. That's how we are measured. And I went to visit a lady in hospital the other day, and this change was so profound when she opened up her mouth, because she was telling me, she said she had booked a doctor appointment, she just wasn't feeling like her. And she had a meeting until 12 o'clock, and she said to them, they were supposed to meet at 2 o'clock again, and she said, I might be late for the meeting, it's a conference call, I'm quickly going to the doctor. Well, she joined the meeting 5 days later. She got to the doctor, she said to me, Jean, you won't believe it, but the night before I had a dream, and it was this like board with red lights that said anemia. So she says to the doctor, I'm not a medical practitioner, I've not studied anything like that, but don't you want to check for anemia? Well, that's exactly why she was booked into hospital for blood transfusions immediately. And 5 days later, she was back home. She says they'd done blood tests and all of that. In English, they had found that she had cancer. She was sent to have a hysterectomy. She got very, very sick after the hysterectomy, and they realized she had septicemia. She was rushed to hospital the night, and the doctor said if you didn't come that night, you wouldn't have made it. But when you talk to her, she's got a smile on her face. It was quite crazy because she had to go back now, and you're sitting in the room and this person says, hey, how are you? You're looking good, do this, do this. I said, but she's in this place, she says almost. She's been at the hospital so much, at this ward so much, and she knows everybody. She knows the cleaners, she knows the people that bring the coffee and the tea and everything. But that light of Jesus, that light of hope, becomes a beacon for other people. It's not when you stand in your moments of comfort, but when you stand in the times of challenge and controversy. So in conclusion, I just want to say, what happens when we choose to stand for something, when we define our values, and when we live by them unapologetically? I'll tell you what happens. We become architects of our destiny. That Jeremiah 29:11, plans and purposes. We become, with God, architects of that destiny. We become builders of a foundation that withstands the tests of the time and the trials. And I was thinking of that Micah text advert, and the older people like me will have a nice giggle at this one, but I don't know if you remember that marble for strength and Micah for stretch, and they still had that lighthouse, and the waves are bashing against it, and because of this paint, and it's got marble and mica, you can withstand everything. So today I want to tell you that you might not have a Microtex 5 litre or 25 litre, but you've got Jesus Christ. And it's not just marble and mica, it's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit that will help us build the foundation that will withstand the tests of times. And like that lighthouse, we become an inspiration for others, a beacon of hope for others. Something that others can look up and say, and not to admire, but to say, if you've been through it, I know that I can also do it. Matthew 5 verse 16, in the same way, let your light shine before men, so that they can see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. So, in conclusion, in a world that encourages conformity, the courage to stand for God is a powerful testimony for Him. I just want to say that again. In a world that encourages conformity, a world that wants you to live according to their standards, the courage, and it is courage, because the Word of God is not accepted everywhere. The courage to stand for God is a powerful testimony to Him, and a powerful testimony to others when they're in that storms. So I just want to say thank you that you're always there, that you're that rock, that strong fortress that we can run to and find safety. Lord, I pray that we have this heart's desire to just get to know you more, to build that relationship, to secure our foundation, and to get deeply rooted in your love in your word and in who you are, so that, Lord, when our times come, when the winds of change blow hard and start rocking our foundation, we stand steadfast with you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.